Listen, let's start with a fundamental truth that so many men ignore with their wives. She wants to be with a high value man. Acceptable. 2, you first attracted her when you were at your highest value. If you don't believe me on that one, then you really need to watch this whole entire video. And number 3, you stopped doing a lot of the high value things that originally won her over in the beginning. Now, I have poured over hundreds of successful and charismatic people. I've watched interviews and I read studies to give you the exact elements of what high value or a confident man is that keeps his wife happy and in love in a relationship. Now, what I found, most of it is BS, okay? It is not your career, it is not your looks, and in fact, it is nothing that you actually have in your life. However, I did find 5 key elements of a high value man that every man has with his wife. Now, these are the skills that I found with all the marriages that we save that men develop in our program that win their wives back. So in this video, I'm going to share those 5 skills with specific actions you can take to maximize each domain. Doing this, it will raise you to your peak level confidence. It will double how attractive you are to her in her eyes and completely get rid of all the anxiety and getting in your head that holds you back from being your best self. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. The big question is whether you are going to be able to say a hearty yes to your adventure. The first concept is what I call apex assertion. Apex being the ideal man, that Superman that we talk about, that guy that is high value. Every single quality creates this apex man on this video. And then assertion is to go through life, to be that man. Imagine this arrow just cutting through life, going in this one direction, and things are trying to knock you off course, obstacles, people are gonna try to bend and break you, but you keep on going. Nothing stops you, right? You don't compromise who you are. Now, there's a really good example of this, one of my favorite books that have influenced me more than any other, with a great, strong male protagonist from Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. Now, in that story, Howard Rourke is the main character, and he wants to go to school to be an architect. That's where it starts off. Now, he's about to graduate and finish, but in his final project, he does a different type of architecture as opposed to their Gothic style that they want. And he knows this style is what is beautiful to him, right? That's what he values. That's what he knows is good architecture. But the person, I believe it's the dean, who wants to kick him out if he doesn't just redo his project and compromise. And he says, all right, so he drops out to not finish his degree just to stay with his values. And the same pattern continues when he goes to New York. You see, he chooses the only architect in the city who actually allows that type of architecture, okay? And this guy is like failing, he's losing all the money, he's not a big architect anymore. And then finally he starts to get some success in some jobs. And one job he had, the person wanted to change just one part of the building to match what the guy wanted instead of what Rourke wanted, Howard Rourke. And he said no. Howard Rourke took it so far of not compromising on his values that he went back to work hard laboring construction because he had no money to build himself back up again, right? And that might seem crazy, right? To sacrifice so much and to not just compromise or bend a little bit just to make ends meet, to survive. But to Howard, it is living a life of death to compromise on who you are and what you want. And he would argue, and Ayn Rand I'm sure would argue, that the majority of men and people in society actually do this. They're sheep, right? They live in mediocrity. Most people don't know who they are or what they want. And that bleeds into the 3 qualities that this man has with apex assertion. The first is knowing your boundaries. Now, I'll put a video at the very end of this video that talks about how to establish your boundaries and how to really create strong boundaries with your wife. The second is knowing your values. Now, there's a value list down below. It's from Jeffrey Scott. There's 200 values. It's a core exercise I do with a lot of men in the program where you look over those values and you narrow it down to your top 3 to 5 and you put that on the background of your phone. So that's the exercise. Now, the third concept is what's called congruence, okay? So for congruence, I want you to imagine that your emotions, right, which you first have when you process information, your thoughts or your dialogue about that experience emotionally, and then your actions. Now, a man who is congruent, who has high apex assertion, in every situation, his emotions, thoughts, and actions are all aligned. But the incongruent man, the lesser man, the victim, it is incongruent. Let's give a common example. Let's say your wife calls you and she's mad because you did not tell her the exact details of this work event and you're staying later. And she says, hey, you know what? No, I need to go to my yoga class. You need to come get the kids. You need to come watch them. Now to you catch me in this because a lot of people are going to have a struggle with understanding this. When it comes to a high level of apex assertion, right, that man would say, look, I know I didn't tell you the details and maybe I should have. However, I'm going to stay at work because this is really important for me to finish this project. The next time I do this, I will discuss with you ahead of time so you don't miss yoga class, but this is important for me, okay? And he'll go towards that conflict. Or the man who has low apex assertion, he would come home early, expecting her not to be upset, expecting appreciation for his sacrifice. But what happens with this man? You get home and she's still mad at you. She doesn't appreciate you for leaving work early, right? She yells at you for still going there late, okay? As a man, if you're gonna go through conflict either way, it is best to go towards conflict in alignment with who you actually are than sacrificing who you are just to make her happy. Because this one skill, the apex assertion, is what cultivates that respect that she has for you, okay? You must go towards conflict to maintain respect in the relationship. The next one is emotional competence, not emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence is having just simply the one domain of understanding what emotions are, whereas competence is the actual skills and abilities. So we want emotional competence. So let's start with this matrix here. The first one we're gonna do is understanding others. This is known as interpretation. So this is knowing when you look at other people's emotions, okay? Are those emotions about you? Can you pick up on the subtle cues? The perfect example with a husband and a wife in a relationship is whenever she's upset about something and then you ask her what's wrong, she goes, I'm fine. No, nothing. I'm not upset. And if you're like, oh, okay, well, it's not about me, and you just go off, it's like, you need to understand and interpret her emotions, right? And big time, women, I know this is frustrating, women have incongruency with their emotions and their actions. It's just in the female nature. So as a guy, being able to understand and then act differently around that is important. She could say, I'm done, it's over, I don't care anymore. But you know deep down, if you know your woman, that she wants you to be there with you, or she's complaining about something, she's jealous, she really just wants reassurance. That's reading the girl code or the woman language, right? The subversive conversation underneath the logic, underneath what she's presenting. And your ability to do so is gonna amplify your results with your wife, to make her feel more understood, create more intimacy than ever. Okay, the next one is manipulation of others. Now, when I say manipulation, I know that's such a bad connotation. So all it means is to be able to alter or change. But since it has a bad connotation, I'll also say affect, okay? So the ability to affect others' emotions. Now, the number one skill with your wife is being unreactive. This is such a game changer for guys, and I never understood why until recently. I was speaking with a client, and he told me how reactive he actually was to his wife. And I was like, yeah, being unreactive is a massive skill you can develop. Every time she was upset or mad, he would double or amplify her emotions. And it's the feminine's job to receive and amplify, okay? She receives whatever you are and amplifies that back. So if you're amplifying it back even further, you're being more reactive, you're being feminine, you're making her feel unsafe. She can't feel like she could be held by you emotionally in a safe space, in your frame of who you are, right? That she could be in her chaotic self, in that storm, and you could just bring her into your shore, your magnetic, solid, safe self, right? So being unreactive is creating that emotional safety that she needs. The third one is to understand thyself, or just the process, right? You want to be able to process your emotions. Now, there's an emotion wheel here that you guys can see, and you can pause the video and really try to understand your past emotions that you were experiencing. What was the deeper emotion underneath? Okay, I can feel that I'm sad, and then I can take action on that sadness, or I can go a little bit deeper and say, maybe I'm feeling lonely right now, right? And so if I was just sad, what would I do? Like, I might try to watch YouTube videos and make me happy. But if I realized that I was actually lonely, I would call a friend, you see? And so that's a small example, but having a deeper understanding of your own self, your own emotions, allows you to take more corrective action in healing those emotions or altering them, right? Or processing them and having competence over thyself. Fourth one, the ability to manipulate or affect yourself, which is to either control your emotions or express them. So this is in conjunction with the understanding of the emotional will. You must understand that emotional will, and then from there, choose to cognitive reframe your emotions, right? The cognitive reframe is to take that event, see how you feel about it, and say, what different perspective can I have on it? So let's look at an example. Let's say in a situation your wife says, you know what, we don't have sex like we used to, and you don't have sex with me the same way anymore, and we don't have sex as much, and I'm just not as, turned on by you. Ouch. Ouch, freaking out, right? Of course that hurts. And so your initial emotion, let's go to the chart, maybe sadness. Maybe it's you feel inferior. That's a deep one. So you feel shameful or inferior. Okay, now you could act on that emotion. However, the ability to have emotional competence, you can say, what is the outcome that I want? Because if you felt inferior, the narrative that you have is maybe I'm not good enough for her. She wants someone else. she's gonna leave me. So then that would cause you in your action to shut down, and the result that you would then get if you're shutting down, I mean, you can imagine that there's just more space between the two of you, emotionally, physically, of course. So let's look at how you can reframe this instead. So let's say you initially feel the inferiorness, but instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you can reframe or have a different perception on the event, which is a miracle. So what if instead you showed compassion to yourself and you said, you know, my testosterone isn't the same. I've been really buried in work. I've been stressed out. This has nothing to do with my virality as a man or how much I actually want her. I just haven't been myself lately. And that's a good warning sign. Her telling me this is actually a good thing. I should be thankful. I should have gratitude for her. So like, there's just basically overall, it's okay. This is not a bad thing. It's normal. You accept it. You add acceptance. And if you were to add acceptance into your life around this damaging situation in your head initially, instead of shutting down, what would you do? You would take massive action, massive positive action towards a better outcome. You might call your doctor to get on testosterone, start working out more, reduce your work hours, right? Do all these things to increase your sex drive, okay? And have more compassion towards yourself. And the result there would not be space. It would be a coming together. Winston Churchill once said, the price of greatness is responsibility. I was on a call a while back with one of the guys in our program who saved his marriage. Now, I teach men in our program to take radical responsibility for everything in your life because any lack of responsibility will cause you to feel hopeless and feel like you don't have control over your environment, and it lowers your self-esteem, and that lowering self-esteem has you self-sabotage and do things that only push your wife away, okay? So it all starts with radical responsibility. Now, I thought that I was telling these guys to take extreme ownership over everything they did. Now, he was telling me a story about how his wife was speaking to him in a disrespectful tone, okay? And when she went back and apologized after she wanted him back in the marriage again, she apologized for using that tone. He said, no, that one's on me. Everything is on me. I thought I was at the extreme end of the spectrum with teaching radical responsibility, but this man took it to the nth degree, above and beyond. And when he did that, I had such admiration and respect to be the man that says everything bad that happens in your life on me, right? And everything good that happens, it's my team members. If you're an employer or a leader on a sports team, a captain, a good coach will say when they lose, it's like, oh, it's on me. But when they win, it's the players. And that is the essence of a leader. And she will follow you when you lead or when you know how to. I want you to go over a past situation with your wife where you're thinking that it is 100% or 95% on her. And just ask yourself, how did I lead to this? What is it that I did that led to this situation? Think of your whole history together, right? One of the biggest epiphanies the men that come into our program, which by the way, if you want to come into the program, set up a call down below with our team. One of the biggest epiphanies that they have is how they actually influence a lot of the stuff in their life with their wife in their marriage. And it is humbling, but from that place of humility, allows them to rebuild themselves into the man that gets her back. The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. I recently found that quote from Mark Twain, and holy crap, man. When it comes to purpose, I've been playing with this idea around a lot, and a lot of us lack purpose in life. We don't know why we're here. I mean, it's a constantly evolving thing. It's not like you get it one day and then it's done. My purpose right now is to help you. Seriously, that is my purpose, is to help a man in your situation not go through the same pain my father and I went through, right? To help you avoid that, to keep your family together, to keep the world together, to solve this problem that we have between men and women right now. But who the hell knows if that's gonna be my purpose long term? So for yourself, now look, I have a list of 10 questions. I'm not gonna say them in the video, just look down below. Please just write them out. If you don't take action, you don't change, right? Write those answers out to each question at the end of the video, okay? They're in the description down below. You know, for many people, it's religion, right? It's like you're here for a bigger reason other than yourself. Whether it's to serve other people, whether it's to be a man of God. For others, it is their life's work, right? It's like, I'm here to achieve this thing greater than myself. But that's what it is. Purpose is trying to get some outcome or something you're striving for that is bigger than you, that benefits humanity. And the thing is that you don't have to achieve it in your lifetime and I would even argue, if you choose a purpose that you will never achieve in your lifetime, like mine, like solving the problem of marriage and relationships, I'm not gonna achieve that in my lifetime, but guess what? Every day I wake up, that is a goal I can strive for that just keeps me moving forward. Depression can't hit a moving target, you see? And it's like you were that man at some point when you met her. You were doing things, you were going places, you were just in that zone, right? And for whatever reason, you've achieved certain milestones in your life. And you're like, oh, I can relax, I can stop, I can halt, right? I can relax, I can go into peace. But those are the things that attracted her to you, you know? 10x. And so I recently, yesterday actually, one of my mentors, longtime internet mentor, came into town. He does these free tours around the nation. And I've been following this guy for 15 plus years, one of the biggest influences of my life. Got to meet him. He knew my work from here actually, which was, there's no words to describe how cool that was. And I got to speak in front of the stage and it was awesome. This guy has a story. He's gone through dark stuff. And he recently went through a dark period again. For him, he was saying how what took him out of that dark period is he went to nature, right? He got away from his day-to-day life. And in his words, he tapped into God, that voice, that higher self voice. Not what the ego wants, not what, these little day-to-day things, but like that true, like, oh, that's what I want, your heart's calling. He tapped into that. And when you tap into that divine truth, that gives you unlimited energy to do what you're supposed to do on this planet, what you're supposed to do. And when you tap into that, I mean, you are the most attractive force in the world. Have you guys ever met someone that's just like, they're just driven by something. Like, that is attractive, that is charismatic, you see? So discover your purpose. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. The deeper down the wound that you find in every man that you meet is this empty hole, and it can't be filled no matter how hard we try with addictions like alcohol, working, escaping, TV, video games, etc., right? But at the core of it, the deeper the wound, the more universal every man has. And so what's the antidote to this black hole that you're trying to fill with her validation as well, that she feels that she doesn't want to fill? It's self-acceptance. Self-acceptance, not just towards yourself, but towards every emotion, every experience, every moment you have, to not retreat from it, to not try to get somewhere else. Now I'll go into it with her in a second, get more practical, but let me go deep with you for a second, all right? I remember one New Year's, I was at this party, and it was not really a party, it was kind of like a get together, and we were in San Diego. It was like a spiritual party. It's weird. Okay. We were pulling out these words of like metal words, and we put them on a bracelet, and you wear that bracelet and it had a word on it. And when that bracelet fell off from the string, that's when you learn the lesson. I pulled acceptance, and my younger brother struggled with drug addiction for a long time. And during that time was the darkest period of it. And we all met up, our family. This is when my parents were going through divorce, by the way, too. My parents still hung out a little bit while they were going through the divorce. Don't ask, it's a weird situation. It kind of wasn't a clean break, as most aren't. And I was upstairs with my brother, and we always had a close connection. And I haven't seen him laugh in years. And I was just talking to him, and he started laughing. I was joking around with him. It's the first time I saw him laugh in so long. And in that moment, I started clapping. I was laughing so hard, and I broke the bracelet, and it fell off. And I gave it to him as a gift. And he started being sober after that. Now, how's this all relate to your wife? In those moments when she's hurting, upset, shut down, angry, spewing poison at you, right? Being mean, just being that stone, cold, lifeless person that you're like, who is this? Your natural reaction is to resist that, is to change. It's no, I don't want her to feel this way. She's giving me nothing. I need her to love me again. What if the next time this happens, you pause, right? You use some emotional competence, and you say to yourself, it's okay. She should feel this way. She should be doing this. This is who she is. And when it comes to other people and change and growth, it tends to be illogical. You can't think yourself out of these problems. Unfortunately, you have to try something different. And going against what seems natural to fix this problem is actually the answer. Stop fighting and resisting and allow her to be the way she is. And giving her that gift of acceptance allows her to feel that she's okay the way she is. And she softens. She feels safe with you again. And that is the work. That is the work. So here's that video I talked about on boundaries right here. Thanks for watching. I love you. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.